Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Whenever I am wandering around the shops, I am always keeping one eye open for bargains. You never know where cheap board games might turn up. Like the other day I was in Home Bargains, which is a discount store in the UK, and they had copies of Fast and Furious from Funko Games for £5. I can't say I care much for the film series, but for £5 I'll take a punt on a board game. Course I will. Haven't played it yet, haven't even read the rules. At some point I am sure you will see my thoughts on this one on the channel, and while I may not be holding my breath that it will be excellent, from what I have seen so far it does look like it could be a bit of a laugh. They missed a trick not putting family game on the box cover though. Anyway, also tucked away at the back of a shelf of other random toys was this, the Duel set from the Funkoverse Strategy Game. I have a few other Funkoverse sets already. I received the Nightmare Before Christmas set as a gift from my family a few years ago, because Nightmare Before Christmas is my favourite movie of all time. Subsequently, my wife bought me the Game of Thrones set, funnily enough from Home Bargains, because she found it for £10 and knew I could combine it with the set I already had. Funkoverse is a fun little skirmish game. You mix and match a team of heroes and then battle up to 3 other players in an arena, playing to a specific objective based on the scenario you pick. It's not astounding. It's no unmatched, that's for sure, but it's beautifully presented, and if you like the Funko Pop aesthetic, then the full colour oversized playing pieces are obviously going to be a huge draw. I like the game enough that I would pick up extra sets for it if I saw them at a good price, and that's what happened here, as I found this Duel set for just £3. And hey, it's Duels, another one of my all-time favourite movies. As you can see, this is one of the smaller 2-character sets, and it includes Quint and Bruce the Shark. It's also the limited chase edition. I had to look up online what that meant, and what it means is not a lot really. It means this set features Bruce with some blood splatter around his mouth. The non-chase set is identical in all other aspects. So yeah, don't worry about hunting down the chase set, you aren't missing out on anything. Bruce, as you can see, is emerging from the ocean depths and has a translucent water effect. Quint is, well, he's Quint. Interestingly, because of the designs, you only get half of Bruce, but you get a complete Quint. Feels like that should be the other way around. Obviously, these have a great toy factor appeal, and that's enhanced even more by the inclusion of a little harpoon gun. You can give this to a character so they have access to an extra special ability. You can even put it in Bruce's mouth, if you want to. Now, this set works as an expansion. You can mix these characters into your existing teams, but it also works as a standalone game playable out of the box. However, the recommended team size for a 2-player game is 3 characters, and if you are playing a 4-player game, you would want at least 2 characters per player. Even for a stripped down simplified 2-player experience, you need at least 2 characters per player. So to get around that, this box also includes 2 counters representing sidekicks. Quint gets a swimmer and Bruce gets a tiger shark. These are basic characters that don't have access to any special abilities, so they're not all that interesting. The idea is you can get started playing straight away, but you should swap out the tokens for more plastic when you get the chance. The game itself is pretty straightforward. It has a nice simple rule set that, combined with the cute aesthetic and the fact nobody ever dies, makes this a fun way to introduce younger gamers to head-to-head skirmish games. To set up a battle, you pick a board. You get 1 double-sided board in each box. Then you choose a scenario for that board, which will dictate ways to achieve victory points. And of course, you build your team. There are no restrictions on how you mix your characters, leaving you free to make any dream team you like. Of course, you want to look at special abilities and how you might be able to make interesting synergies. Also, each character has 2 coloured dots on their character card. These represent agility, strength, cunning, or leadership. You get to take 1 token of each type listed on each of your character cards, and you use those tokens to create your ability pool. Whenever a character wants to use a special ability, they have to pay for it with ability tokens from that pool. So by picking characters that require and generate the same kind of ability tokens, you are making it easier to trigger abilities across the whole team. That's an interesting wrinkle in the rules for team creation, but ultimately, just make teams of characters you like. You'll have just as much fun. In terms of playing the game, it's a straightforward sort of skirmish with alternating activations. 1 player will pick a character and then either rally them, which means stand them up if they're currently knocked down, or else use the character to make 2 actions. The player then marks the character as exhausted for the rest of the turn, and the next player takes a turn with one of their characters, and so on. The basic actions are moving 2 spaces, standing up an adjacent ally who has been knocked down, interacting with an object on the board, the outcome of which will depend on the scenario you're playing, or making a basic challenge. The challenge action is how you defeat your rivals. For a basic challenge, you roll 2 of these special custom dice. These have hits on 3 sides, exclamations on 1 side, and shields on the last 2 sides. You will score 1 success for every hit you roll, and 3 successes for every exclamation. Your opponent then rolls dice equal to their defense stat. They score 1 success for every shield they roll, and 3 successes for every exclamation they roll. If the attacker scores the most successes, they win the challenge. If the target was standing, they are knocked down. If the target was already knocked down, they are knocked out. This isn't the end for that character, but they are temporarily removed from the board and placed on the 1 space on the cooldown track. More on that in a moment. Knocking out rivals is a primary way of scoring victory points. Now, so far so humdrum, but of course the real joy of the game comes from the abilities your characters bring to the table. In addition to using your 2 actions per turn to make basic actions, you can also use special actions. This is either using an item that requires an action to operate, if the character has an item, or activating one of the character's special abilities. Abilities often let you chain several actions together or perform more powerful challenges. For example, Quint has the ability Compare Scars. This lets you stand up Quint if he was knocked down and then make a challenge action with 2 dice. This combines the rally action with the challenge action, making it easier for Quint to quickly bounce back from being defeated in a challenge so he can take revenge on his antagonist. It perfectly captures his character. However, abilities come at a cost. In addition to spending an action, you also have to spend a token of the correct type. In this case, Strength. If you don't have the correct token in your ability pool, you can't play that ability, but eventually you will get spent tokens back. You will notice that Compare Scars has a 3 inside the Strength symbol. That means you place the token on the 3 space of the cooldown track. This is the same track where knocked out heroes go, and also where you may have to place some items after using them. At the end of a game round, after all players have exhausted all of their characters, there is a cooldown phase, where everything on the track moves down 1 space. Anything that moves off the bottom of the track comes back into play. Items become available to use, tokens are returned to the pool, and characters are placed in their starting area on the board. And I like this. It's really neat and efficient, and incredibly easy to understand. Characters are never killed, which admittedly does make the combat feel a little toothless and sanitized sometimes, but also makes the game more accessible to more players. But more importantly, ability tokens eventually drop back into the pool, giving you access to those abilities again. It gives you something else to think about, because more powerful abilities can be game changing, but they tie up the token for more turns on the cooldown track. Weaker abilities are much less useful, but you may be able to fire them off twice as often. While the cooldown track is very cool, honestly there isn't much more to the game than that. The use of the ability pool tokens in conjunction with the track to operate as the timer is the standout feature of the rules, and the only thing that you could consider fresh or different to other skirmish games. But I think that's okay. Not every game has to set the world alight, and a good, solid, attractive skirmish game that plays in under an hour is definitely no bad thing. And like with most games of this kind, the rules are just the framework on which to hang interesting special abilities. It doesn't really matter that there is nothing all that inventive under the hood, because what makes the game memorable is seeing how characters interact and how the designers have translated those personalities through the use of different abilities. Each character also has a trait that adds another layer to their designs. For example, Quint is a veteran hunter, which means when he exhausts, he can give any rival character the hunted status. This keys into his brilliantly named ability Farewell and Adieu, which lets him move 4 spaces towards the hunted character and make a 2 dice challenge on them. And of course, the game does have one other very significant trick up its sleeve: the power of IPs. This game has Funko money behind it, and that means almost no IP is off limits. You want to have Marty McFly teaming up with Jack Skellington and Ellie Sattler to take down Arya Stark, Batman and Quint? You can absolutely make that happen. There is a simple, immeasurable joy in a sandbox that lets you play with all your favourite characters. And if you get to do that while introducing some non-gamers or younger gamers to the wonders of tabletop gaming, why the heck wouldn't you? Funkoverse isn't one of my top 50 games. It's always going to pale in comparison to Unmatched. But it's fun, and if I can pick up sets at bargain prices, you better believe I'm going to keep expanding my collection. But that's about all from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.